there was no payoff. It's just like, what do we do? Okay, we're going to book another tour, play in front of 20-something people. Like, I was just soured on the whole thing. I was like, you know what? I said to Larry, I said, you know what? I'm just done with this. We played a couple shows in Manhattan. That really just soured me. I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this at all.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I'm your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, if you need an explainer animation for your company, you can check out my company, drive80.com, drive80.com. I've been specializing in explainer animations for the last 11 years, so if you need to explain what you do in 60 to 90 seconds visually, then go check it out, and you can email me at mike@drive80.com if you've got any questions. Dogpound were early 90s punks with a van load of attitude from Passaic County, New Jersey. They toured the U.S. from dive bars to Legion halls to basements to pizza joints. That's like literally the only write-up they have online, but so this is kind of a personal note, which I talked to with Jeff about. They were the first CD that I bought at a punk show 20-something years ago. So I talked about that with Jeff, which was pretty cool to end up interviewing him so many fucking decades later, and just to tell him that was pretty awesome. These guys were one of the early pop punk Jersey bands, and why this makes sense to this interview, besides the fact that they were the first CD that I bought at a punk show, so that for me that makes it work. And the second is they played up to about 97. So these guys, plus like the Fiends and Flatus and all them in the northern Jersey scene, like basically built the whole structure that we followed to start playing local shows. And they survived till 97 when the scene that I was a part of came over and like just kind of changed things for him. So it's fun to get that perspective on what he thought about that. And real quick, the connection we had wasn't great, so there are some spots where it sounds like the audio jumps around, and that's because there were random delays when Jeff was talking, so some stories have like weird transitions mid-sentence, so that's what that's all about. I contacted him through his Facebook account. I believe Monkey was the one who told me about this. If not, I totally apologize to the person that did, because I basically always think that Monkey is connecting me to everybody, because he is. And if you don't know who Monkey is, you can go check out episode 6 on thiswasthescene.com. I would say you could look it up on Apple or whatever podcast service you're listening to, but pretty much all of them only keep the current 100 episodes. So everything past that or before that just gets kicked off. But all of my episodes are on thiswasthescene.com, so you can go there to check that out and others. I contacted Jeff through his Facebook account, asked him to chat. He said yes, and this is what we talk about. Not starting off punk rock, getting told to grow his hair, what made them start putting on Legion Hall shows, forgetting the words while playing live, sound exchange in Wayne, New Jersey, playing with Jawbox, having an edge as a band, King Dickley Kool, getting soured by the scene change, the heroine and shit on the walls stories, and a ton more. You can visit their Dogpound Bandcamp page to listen to their albums. It's dogpoundnj.bandcamp.com. You can also check out Jeff's songs on his own Bandcamp, which is jeffersonsongs.bandcamp.com. I'll have links to these in the show notes, so you can click on them easier than just typing the shit in. That's all I got to say, so feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. When did you guys officially break up?
Officially broke up 97.
I could swear that you guys, your CD, wasn't it green or something like that?
Yeah, forward look. Yep, green.
I think that was the first purchase I ever made at a local show.
No way.
I think so, yeah.
Awesome.
Because I was in this band called Lanemeyer, and before that we were called Congress a Cow, and we started playing in the scene as Congress a Cow. So I remember going to the first show, the first great, really awesome show was Butler American Legion, and then we played in Boonton, and there's one spot in Denville, I think, because that's, remember when people would have CD or stands set up like Rick to Life. We'd go there with CDs and sell them.
Yep.
I don't know if it was from him, but someone like that. I bought a CD because I was looking around. Someone's like, "Oh yeah, that's a Jersey band, Dogpound." So I bought that, and I think that was the first purchase I ever made.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. That's great. Do you still have the CD? It's out of print.
No, I don't have it. I don't know where it got lost in the shuffle over the years, but
Gotcha.
Someone posted. Are you a member of the New Jersey Pop Punk Facebook group?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So someone posted about you guys, and I was like, oh my God, I totally remember that band. So I'm excited that I got to get you on this to talk about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, somebody in Germany's put one of our songs on a comp, so it was nice to hear that. Then you reached out, which was it was nice to hear that too, because it was a great time for music and everything for us.
So wait, someone just put out a comp, so someone put out one of your songs on a comp recently?
No, it's going. Yeah, it's going in Germany. Oh, forgive me, I forget the name. It's coming out off our first 7 inch called the song's called "Played for the Fool," and he's putting it out. I think it's like series 3. It's vinyl, a vinyl only release. I could email you or message you the details if later, but he contacted me again through weird channels, and he's like, "Does anybody know this band?" And he had our 7 inch. I don't know how he had it. He's like, "I love this song." I guess through that pop punk site is how he found me. And then we were talking on the backs. Actually, he didn't find me. He found the old bass player, Larry. And Larry's like, "Hey, this guy's interested in our song." I'm like, "What?" And then I met him through through Messenger and sent him the stuff out to Germany. I think it's coming out later in the year.
Yeah, actually, I'm in the group right now because I put a Dogpound as a search to see what other posts have come up, and I see that post right there. It's the it's the anything and everything. It's got like
Yep.
a hand drawn. So let's kind of I'm gonna go back and ask about how you got into the scene, but since we're right here, I'm interested in this. So that 7 inch, like who? It's such a random place to start, but who drew the artwork for that?
Okay. So our good friend Joe Derone, was the drummer of the Fiends. We did all of our shows with the Fiends in the 80s. We were a rock band at the time. We were not called Dogpound. We were called Deadlock.
Okay.
And we were so bad, it came off as punk. So yeah, I'm full disclosure, we were terrible, but our songs came off as punk. And I remember Jerry from the Fiends saying, "Man, you got to make up your mind. You guys punk or hard rock." But at the time, it was like 1987. We wanted to be like Motley Crue, and that kind of stuff. But we were terrible. So that's how that whole thing started. Yeah.
So
So
how did you get involved? So this is the 80s. This is crazy because again, this is focused on the late 90s, but where this makes sense is that for me personally, again, like that's this, I really 100% believe that this is the first purchase I made at the scene. So as you guys are transitioning out and stopping, I'm starting, but you guys are, the scene's starting to grow like 94, 95-ish, and then it really starts to blow up like 97, 98. So you guys just missed that whole thing, but you had been playing for so long. So you said you started in the 80s. Like when in the 80s did you guys start playing shows?
started 1987 Rat Trap Cafe
Where was
with the
that?
Fiends, a place in Haledon, New Jersey. $3 door. Yeah, I think we split the door, half with the guy. Yeah, that's where we started, and we would do Saturday matinees. It was a sports bar. Somebody from the Fiends or somebody knew somebody, and he would let us play these shows, and they wound up being really cool. I mean, they actually evolved into some metal shows and stuff like that, and that's where we started. 80, 87, 88, 89. That whole thing ended for me and that band Deadlock. We were done. Funny story, we were playing this place called Studio One, late 80s. This was before ticket selling, and we would always get the first slot. And of course, you ask all your friends to come out, and they paid, I forget what it was, a pretty big cover at the time, like $10. So we were playing, and we were getting better, and people started to come out. And I swear to God, the guy who booked the place at the time, his name was Pete. He pulled me aside and he says, "You guys are doing pretty good. You're drawing pretty nice. If you were to grow your hair like your drummer and the other guitar player, I could put you on a later slot and you'll play in front of many more people." And I said, "Thanks, man." And I walked away and I cursed him up and down because, of course, I like punk rock and all that. And I'm like, "I'm never doing this again. Screw you." And that was like my kick into I'm against everything, screw this. So broke the band up. We're no more. Started writing songs. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be in a punk rock band. I said, "I'm done with this model crap. You're going to judge me by my hair. I'm not about that. We're not about that." And my best friend and bass player at the time, Larry, was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. Screw that." And that's what we did. We just started doing punk rock songs, and
That's awesome.
that's how it all began. Next thing you know, it was the 90s.
So it's funny because I felt like that whole basically what you said right there is what I think a lot of bands felt later on about over almost a little bit over a decade later when the early 2000s started and it started becoming a fashion show again. And I remember at that time, and I think I've said a bunch of times, and this is that at that age, I was looking around going, I remember this. This reminds me of the 80s when hair metal was the thing and fashion and glam and all this shit. I'm like, it's literally happening again right now. So you got to witness. I mean, I don't know if that was the first time because I'm sure in the 60s and 70s there was shit like that happening. Like, like the Beatles dressing in suits or whatever. But okay, so that happens and then you guys you're like, let's do a punk band. So then how does
Yeah.
that transition happen?
So the transition was my good friend Joe was always in the hardcore, always in the punk. Even like when we were all listening to like the Motley Crue stuff, he was always into the Misfits, always into the Sex Pistols. We all loved the Ramones. He had one of those suitcases of cassettes in the back of his Blazer. I said, I'm taking this weekend. He goes, yeah, go ahead, And I dove into the Descendants, Live Age, what was it? All Roy Says, the first All record. And I got so connected to that first All record, that leads you to Big Drill Car, leads you to The Chemical People. So with the Descendants, and it's all one big family. And that was it. That's all I needed. And the Doughboys, that was what it was in the 90s. 7 Seconds. And again, then starting to discover the stuff, of course, I don't mention the Clash. I mean, that was it, the Ramones and the Clash. And the Sex Pistols were the staple. And then, discovering Stiff Little Fingers and Operation Ivy. It wasn't popular. You really had to look for that. And of course, like I mentioned it before, the Fiends, they were our friends that lived across town. And, they were into all of this stuff. They're bringing stuff to the table. Hey, check this out. The Minutemen. Actually, it's funny. We got into the fire. We were in the fire hose before the Minutemen, and then you start going down, Black Flag, another staple, and Rollins, and you start going down that rabbit hole. It's just like, wow. So, the Fiends put out a record called their full length. Man, I forget it. But anyway, they went on the road. And we were like, man, that is the coolest thing. I wish we can do that. And they got a lot of traction at the time for that record. We're the Fiends. That's it. It's called We're the Fiends. So they, did their touring or whatever and had a bunch of contacts and shared them with us. And then they put their second record out and, so on and so forth. And we were kind of like, hey, man, they did it. They're doing it. We can do this. And that's what we did. And we started. And again, when we first started, we were more, 1-4-5 punk rock and roll. And as we got older and matured, it evolved the sound and the music and the songs. But that stuff that I mentioned to you, the Chemical People, Doughboys, I mean, to this day, I love it. It ages. It's 30, 40 years old. Some of that stuff, it's incredible. It's timeless. So that was it.
What was it saying to you though back then? Like what about it was the thing that drew you to it?
I'm going to say Milo, with Silly Girl and Hope, Clean Sheets, all that stuff you can relate to because, the girl leaving you or stuff like that. You felt like, man, these guys know me. Holy, these guys are like my friends. Meanwhile, they have no idea who I am. But you felt like you had a kinship with these people and we put them on pedestals. I mean, we were like, my goodness. The first time we saw they were playing, ironically, with the Fiends at Maxwell's. I remember sitting down eating hamburgers next to them. And I was like, wait a minute, this is all? And we're eating. Wait, whoa, you're not supposed to see the band. It just blew it like, wow. It was such a culture and it was so inviting and it was so great. And then, talking to Scott Reynolds after the show, and, this guy was so dedicated. He threw up his meal in the middle of the set and didn't miss a note, and it's just like, my goodness, it was the most incredible thing I ever saw. And that's what it was. You felt like you weren't alone because, you get to that point, for me, it was, end of high school, beginning of college, you just felt so alone. Like you're trying to find yourself as a young adult. And, the music, like I said, all the music at that time, like you referenced, was like Poison and, the White Snakes and all these glamorous videos and all this crazy stuff. And it's just like, man, I'm never going to be that. That's not me, and then you come across this music and you feel like it's, one of your brothers, even though it's not. And you just, I don't know, it just opened up so many doors for me as a kid, as a young guy.
Where in Jersey did you grow up?
Totowa, New Jersey.
So at this point, like, Fiends are going on tour. You guys want to go on tour. Where in Jersey were you guys playing shows?
Okay, so funny story. The guy from Studio One comes around because punk rock starts to there's some rumblings. So we started playing. He would put punk rock bands on with. We played with Caius at the time, Biohazard, stuff like that. So that crossover hardcore stuff, we would play those shows at Studio One. It was great. We played the Pipeline, Studio One, American Legion shows we would put on ourselves.
So the thing I love about this is that the majority of the podcasts since like episode 30 really broke outside of New Jersey and started talking about bands outside of that. And but I love it like when I get to dip back into New Jersey and talk about just very specific like Jersey shit. Like Legion Halls. What Legion like were you guys I kind of feel like you guys and the Fiends were the ones that kind of really started that shit. Like started the Legion Hall thing.
So what happened was the Pipeline was tough to get into the Pipeline at the time. Why, I don't know, but it was the person who was booking it. It was tough getting in there. So we had the idea, hey, let's put on our own show. The first one was at a firehouse, and it was awesome.
Do you know what town it was in?
Yeah, it was in Totowa.
Right.
Riverview Drive Firehouse was the first one we ever did, and it was packed. And we played with, believe it or not, our friends in a metal band called Snag. I don't know if the Fiends played that. Fiends may have played that. And it was packed. It was great. Cops came, the whole 9 yards. So we were never able to do it there. So then we started doing it at a VFW hall in Little Falls, right by our old high school. And they were always successful. And you know what happened was we would have these awesome Legion shows, and we'd do one, it would be great. We'd do the second one, and then some knucklehead would get in trouble with drugs or something. And then they would stop it because the guys from the Legion halls loved it because we would come in there, bring these people in, and they, there were people coming to these shows that were 21 and over, and they would be drinking at their bar, and they didn't mind it. But like I said, there was always a knucklehead or a fight in the parking lot, and then it would put an end to it. And we also did, we used to stage in West Patterson. Now it's called Woodland Park. And we knew the guy real well, Vinny, who owned it. And he had a showcase room. And I was like, hey, Vinny, is your room booked on like Saturday nights? He goes, never. All the bands are playing out. I go, what would you charge me to rent that out and have a show? We could charge $5 a head. Well, we did it. It was awesome. We played in this. So we had all these kids, going to this rehearsal studio, which was right by the high school. God, there must have been about 150 kids at this thing. And it was great. And the same thing. We did like 3 of them. The third one, some kid got busted buying a bag of weed and said he scored it at the friggin' show. The cops came down on Vinny and backstage, and we were never able to do it again.
Backstage, the practice studio?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we used to practice there.
We used to have shows there.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah. So in his showcase room at the back, we would rent that out.
Yep.
And we would put on shows. So then finally, obviously I didn't have to rent it out. We just would split the door with the bands. We had a ball. And again, he would buy like water and soda and, sell it to the kids at $1 a pop. And there was obviously no drinking there. And, we would play, and the sound was fantastic because it was a friggin' rehearsal studio,
Yep.
And he did sound, and it was great. And he loved it. Matter of fact, he started doing them without me. When we would go on the road, he would try putting them on or whatever. Yeah, it was a nice little thing that happened there. It was a lot of fun.
That's crazy. Did you guys ever play with the band True Zero?
Yes. I know that name. We played with True Zero. We used to do, and one more, let me go back. We used to play this VFW hall all the time in Morton. A guy by the name of Jay Palmer used to put the shows on there. We played there with 15. We played there with
oh, wow.
Oblivion, Cletus. I mean, yeah, we had a ball there too. Those guys were awesome. Chris Faglio, I'm still in contact with him through Facebook and stuff. And yeah, no, it was great. Some great stuff like that. Local great stuff. And it was really starting to grow, the scene. And those guys, all those places were really, putting these shows on, and they were consistent. And like you said, we got out of it in the beginning of '97 when it really started to take off, and there were a lot more shows like that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys basically set up the foundation for us to walk in as a band and just have this thing set up. So it's wild to hear about the origins of how that shit starts around there. Because like you guys, like bands like you guys are basically the reason like why our band got to play. Like you guys.
That's so cool.
Yeah, like we all. by the time we started playing shows, like again, it would be in Butler American Legion, or we did Wayne Firehouse later on. But
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and those we'd walk in there and there'd just be a ton of kids, so it was already kind of set up for us in a way, and it just exploded from there.
We used to do another, you know what, too? We did one more a lot. A Ridgewood Elks Club or a Ridgewood VFW we used to do all the time too. And when we first did it, it was like really low key, maybe 30 people, but we didn't care. It was, it's a show. It was fantastic. By like the third one we did, the place was packed with kids. I was like, wow, couldn't believe it. It was great. Yeah, that was another one. Ridgewood, we used to do a lot. I think it was an Elks Club right on the main road there or something.
I think I remember playing there. Actually, my first love, she was from Ridgewood, so that's so funny that you said that. So on the Fiends website, because they have like pretty much every show that they've played, you go back and you guys are on there. You got like 91, Studio One, 90 in September 15th, 91, the Chameleon Club in Lancaster, PA.
Oh, those shows in the Chameleon Club in Lancaster were friggin' amazing, and we were so grateful that they brought us there. The Fiends had so many fans out there. Oh, it was incredible. I'm going to tell you what. The first time we played the Chameleon Club at the Fiends, I tuned up my guitar. We were a three-piece at the time. We started off we were a four-piece, then we became a three-piece for a very long time. Then we got another guitar. Brian came in '94. We go to do the Chameleon Club. I tune my guitar. I turn around. I I couldn't talk. There was that I never seen that many people before to
Really?
see us play. I was like, oh, wow. So the first notes come off, no problem. It's great. And we're grooving, we're having a ball, right? And the kids are dancing, which didn't really dance in that time for us anyway, in the early 90s, but out there they were. And then we were doing like 5, 6 songs in, and I take a break to catch your breath. I look, I'm like, oh crap, man. I don't know the next notes of the song. So my bass player's like, Larry's like, dude, you wrote the freaking song. I'm like, I know I have no idea. So I had to like collect myself. It's like, all right, great. And then, it was a song. Luckily the guitar started it because I was just going to skip it. And then we wound up doing it. But yeah, that was my holy shit moment. I couldn't believe it. It happened one other time too in Green Bay, but it was a lot of fun. And yeah, every time we went out there, it was amazing. Amazing.
What so for like everyone listening, because it's been so long since I've had that CD, and you can't find your songs. Like I can't find them on, I mean obviously Spotify you have to host it, but I can't find them online. So kind of explain to people what you guys sounded like.
Well, okay. So the first part of your question is, it's funny. I spoke to Brian, the other guitar player, and I am going to get the stuff up on Bandcamp because people have been asking, and I just been kind of lazy about it, dealing with my other, musical projects and life in general. But I'm going to do it. So what did we sound like? Man, that's a tough one. We were very eclectic. And that's what the reviewers and everybody, we didn't just sound like one song or one thing. Maybe one song sounded like the Descendants, and maybe the next one was kind of like the Minutemen, and then throw a 7 seconds hardcore kind of number in there, and that was the stuff we liked. So we just whatever we wrote, we did it. We didn't care. We didn't have no mold. It was just how we did it. As we grew as a band, because you had a catchy chorus, they called you pop punk. We were never pop punk like we were never like a Green Day pop punk band or anything like that by any stretch. Did we have a song or two or three that were catchy like that? Yeah, but not like that at all. Later on, I think we were more like a Veil. People were saying, more on that sort of thing. We like to sing, a lot of harmonies and stuff like that. And I guess because of the harmonies and maybe the association with the Fiends, they say pop punk. But we went with it. Hey, whatever made people come to the shows, we didn't care.
I think that just the small memory that I have from when I got that CD, because I was so used to all the poppy things that it was a little there was a little edgier. I thought I mean again I could be my brain could be just making this, but I thought it was like not I forget it, I can't explain it. Like I'll have to hear it again. If you guys get that up on Bandcamp, I'm sure if I start listening, I'll be like, oh my God, like the memories will just click in.
It's cool.
So the first thing you put out, because I'm online and I see counterclockwise.
Yep.
Okay, so what number release is that? And was that the one we were talking about earlier that the guy wanted?
No, that anything and everything was the first 7 inch was anything and everything. Counterclockwise was number two, but number one actually was called Lady the Single. We actually put out a friggin' cassette single in 1990 because that's what people were doing.
Yeah.
And it was cheap to do, and we did it. I forget how many we had, maybe got a couple hundred. I don't have it anymore. I know one person that might have it. Yeah, and one of those embarrassing things like, oh man, this sounds like crap. But at the time we loved it, and people bought it, and we sold it at our shows for $3 and it was great.
Where did you guys record that?
We recorded that at Syntron Studios. And again, the Fiend connection. They recorded there. So naturally we had to hook up. We went there and recorded that. We recorded Counterclockwise. No, we recorded Anything and Everything there. And then Dave Syntron wound up moving down to Florida. Larry and Alan, the bass guitar player and drummer, found Big Blue Meanie, Tim Gillies. We started our relationship with Big Blue. Fantastic, amazing people, amazing family. And again, that was, before the Black Pumpkin involvement, back before. This was when they had their house in Hackensack, and we recorded in the basement. And it was just fantastic. Tim turned us on to so many different things. And actually, we brought the Fiends there. We're like, we got a studio for you now. The rest was history. Jerry and the Fiends worked with Tim, Christ, until he died, a couple months ago. So, yeah, they worked there for over 30 years with those guys, Big Blue. But great people.
I interviewed Jerry.
Nice.
Yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, I think there's a lot of things he's talking about that you'll just be like, yep, I remember that. I totally remember that.
Yeah, it's funny. I ran into Jerry at Sound Exchange.
Oh, did you? Wait,
yeah,
when?
just before Christmas. It was great. You know what? We grew up. I know Jerry since second grade. We used to trade baseball cards, so we're friends. And, as you grow up, you're still friends, even though you don't talk every day or see him all the time. But we've been texting back and forth. And then, unfortunately, Tim passed away. So it was an excuse to talk again. So we're supposed to we talk. We text and talk. We're going to try to get together real soon, actually.
That's cool. Yeah, actually, Sound Exchange was the record store that me and my buddies used to go to. And I was just up in Jersey over the summer, and I went there, and I was like, holy shit,
yeah,
it's still there.
Awesome. Still is. I still go there. Ted Philatus works there.
Is he like the main person? Because I might have saw him when I was there this summer.
Now Anthony, the guy who had it, Art, owned it for the longest time, sold it to Anthony and Stephanie. So Anthony and Stephanie own it now, and Ted's still there. They're all friends. Ted's there usually on the weekends. But I know Ted from 1989 too, from Philatus, playing on all the shows with him.
I remember we played a couple shows with Philatus in Vernon.
Hamburg?
Yeah,
Vernon,
yeah. The phone booth.
Yep.
Yeah, there was like that some club or some bar we played at out there, and they played. Yeah, actually, it's funny going to Sound Exchange. I walked in, I was like, "Yep, still smells exactly the same."
Yep.
It's just carpet and plastic. It's so jam packed with shit. So you guys put out Anything and Everything, and so how many songs are on that? Like 2? 4? Okay, so you guys get that, and then because you said you went on the road. Did you tour on that? Did you tour on the single before that?
Yeah, we toured on Counterclockwise. East Coast. Funny, our first show was with Jawbox in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah, no shit. We were lucky. My bass player was relentless, and the guy gave us a shot, and we played. Those guys were awesome. They just put out their second record at the time. We really hit it off with Zach, the drummer. What a great dude. While we're hanging out, our guitar player, who wasn't in the band at the time, our friend Brian, winds up going to the show. He's like, I can't believe you're playing down here. I go, I can't believe you're here from New Jersey. He goes, yeah, I'm visiting some friends. And so it was one of those weird moments. But yeah, that was our first tour show. First show on the road was with Jawbox. And that was a lot of fun. And of course, because of them being on Discord, brought people to the show.
Was that like on the third floor of a building?
Yes.
Because that just recently closed down. What the fuck was the name? Like, for some reason I want to say Arthur's, but I'm like that. I don't think that's it.
I don't remember. I may have a flyer. You know what? I didn't keep those flyers and stuff like that. I wish I did. I kept like the reviews somewhere, but I didn't keep the flyers and stuff. I wish I could. You know what? We made so many freaking flyers. We didn't care about them. Now I wish I had them, to go back and reminisce. But I forget not Kyber Pass. No, I don't know.
Actually, I'm texting my buddy right now because he used to live in Wilmington, and we were getting beers last year down there. and because it's above a Waffle House, or where a Waffle House used to be in Wilmington. Let me just text him. I could just edit this part just to cut it down. So you guys go on tour. Like, what was that like back then? I mean, because nowadays, I know what it was like for us because we had cell phones were around. You'd have like one person would have one, and then there'd be beepers, which were kind of fucking stupid. But we'd have to use, like we'd have to use dialers or a lot of bands would talk about using dialers at payphones that made the sound of the coin sound. So what was that experience for you guys when you're on the road?
Well, so you got to remember early '90s. So we had to make our own bio. So we were our own. So we were our own label. I think we called it Pelican Records or something as a joke. And we had to make up a press package. So we would send out packages with a 7-inch and a brief bio and a picture of us, me, Larry, and Alan. And we would send them out all over wherever we wanted to play. You'd follow it up with a phone call. It was a lot of work. I mean, a ton of work. And then we would do weekends and we'd string them together. Nobody knew who the heck Dogpound was. This guy gave us a shot with Jawbox, so it was great. Now, the next show, the next night, I swear to God, it was some farmhouse on the porch. Outside, we were covered. A bunch of skinheads show up. It was just insane. Like, people came out of the woodwork. I don't know if they were expecting like an oi band because the way we looked or whatever, because we were from Jersey. I have no idea, but
I was thinking that you guys possibly would have attracted a tougher crowd when you rolled in with just the name of the band back then.
It's funny. You think back as you mature, and we were a gang. We were tough. We had that tough. People thought we were unapproachable, which isn't good when you're trying to sell yourself. Instead of having open arms and being open, you really had to. So somebody who knew us were like, "Oh man, those guys are really cool." But if you didn't know us, we weren't going to extend the, "Hey, how are you?" We weren't like that at all, man. We were socially awkward. So we were just, wear our leather jackets and would shut our mouths. Maybe it came off as arrogant to some people. I don't know. But that's how it was. And it wasn't until later when we realized, hey, we got to kind of sell ourselves a little bit. And then we did later on. But no, we wore whatever we wanted to do. We wore anything we cared. We didn't care if we were in whatever, shorts, jeans, whatever. And we didn't care because we were playing for ourselves. That was it. We didn't care. And we just wanted to get out of New Jersey so bad. And we would play anywhere.
Like, what were you guys touring in? Just like a cargo van or?
My goodness. Gosh.
I love this.
You should have seen my mother's face when I came home with this blue rust bucket Ford van that we spent like $400 on it. But my best friend Joe at the time was a mechanic, and we bought it just before one of our tours going south, going down to Atlanta, and we were building the loft the night before. It was I thought my mother was going to die. You're going where in that? It was such a piece of crap, but it got us where we needed to go, man. Insurance cost more money on it than it cost to buy the thing, but it got us where we needed to go. This
is a random thing that I still do. But do you ever just see vans when you're driving around town and just be like, "That's a good van to tour in"? Do you ever do that?
Always. That never goes away.
It never goes away.
Never goes away. And I'm thinking, man, we could put, if you had a loft there, yeah, always. You'd fit all your equipment. Yes, always think of that stuff.
Everybody I talk to who's been in a band, they're like, yeah, to this day, I always see a van and be like, that'd be a great van to tour in.
Well, later on, we got smart. We saw No Effects back, before they blew up. We saw them at Maxwell's, and they had an airport bus. We're like, dude, we got to get a school bus. And we did. We bought a school bus, one of those short buses.
Yeah.
And we bought one of them. And that was the best thing to tour. I mean, you thought you were in a condo.
Oh, my God. I swear to God, like I all that stuff you did is that everyone mimicked all of that shit later on. Like I think the airplane bus that we saw, there was a video with Lagwagon when they're on tour and they're in one of those buses, and then the school bus. There's a band called LWL that was around at that time. They bought a school bus. So we had like, it's funny. Our first van was the shitty blue van. It sounds exactly like the one you're describing. It was such a hunk of shit, and it couldn't. But it was like it was the coolest thing ever. 'Cause you're like, we're in a fucking van. This is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. I remember driving through Kentucky, and I'm just like, look, this is awesome. This is life. We're in this big rust bucket in the middle of nowhere, and you're just so happy. It's like, yeah, that's what it was. It was just about getting out. We just wanted people to hear us play. I wanted people to hear the songs. That's what it was about early on. That was it. It was that simple. We were able to do that, which was great. Now, again, hindsight, I should have had bigger, loftier goals, but that's what the goals were, unfortunately.
So I'm looking on the in the group and I put in like you guys in Google. So I've got anything and everywhere. So that shows up. Junkyard shows up as a 7 inch, and then counterclockwise. Are those the only three before you did the CD?
So the releases were, so we had the first 7 inch anything and everything, then counterclockwise. Then we did a cassette EP called Life and Leisure and the Pursuit of Happiness. And then we did the 7 inch Junkyard, then the full length Forward Look, the CD you were referencing before. And then we did King Dickley Kool in '96, our last one.
So when did you guys do the full length?
We did first, that was '94, and then '93 came out in '94. And then we did King Dickley Kool, came out in '96. And then we did an EP where we recorded live. I forget, we were with like a bunch of bands from all over the country. Somebody had this idea: if every band puts in $100, you get X amount of time, and you give these CDs away for free. The guy's name was Heiko. I forget his name. Great dude. And we were on this comp with, like, no lie, like I think 50 bands. I don't know. And we recorded 4 songs for that. And that was the last thing we did. And that was a lot of fun because it was really, really raw, really rude. And the band, we had a ball doing it. It was just so much fun. We recorded it in a friend's basement. It wasn't at Big Blue. It wasn't like big production. It was like old school punk, like when we were kids. And we loved it. It's funny, Brian actually came across it, and I do have those files, and I'm definitely going to put those up. Definitely going to, because not many people heard them. Because the only way to get this comp was it was given to you by a band who recorded it. So, like, I know Violent Society was on it. I forget the name of the other bands. I don't have a copy, because you only got, I forget how many copies he gave you as a band. But it was cool. It was a good way to get your name out with a bunch of bands throughout the country, and that's why we did it. So, and at the time we were with no problem, do it, and we did, and it was great promotion for King Dickley Kool. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So that was the last release basically that we did before we called it quits.
Before that, though, the all the artwork that you guys have, was that always Jerry that was drawing it?
So
it's really
Joey
cool.
Joey from the Fiends did the first 3 7-inches, and then he designed the last 2, the full lengths. He designed them. So the Forward Look, I swear to God, it's a true story. Joey and I were at a used bookstore that had used records and stuff, and I came across a Life magazine with a dog, Dogpound. I'm like, Joey, check this out. He goes, ooh, that's cool. That could be an album cover. So I bought the magazine for $0.25, and that's where the dog is with that lady. It's from an old Life magazine ad. It was called it was the Forward Look, like, car. That was like the brand, like some kind of ad for a car. So that's where that came from. And then King Dickley Kool was a painting that I had from art school, some throwaway thing. I'm like, yeah, use this. So that's how that all went about.
What the fuck is King Dickley Kool?
King Dickley Kool was that was our last album.
I know, but like, where'd you get the name from?
So when we first started playing, when we first had Alan in the band, he wasn't the original drummer. Alan joined the band. He was younger than us. He would always come up with these weird names. And I was in art school, and I used to have one of these paperboy hats, and I showed up for practice one day, and he goes, yeah, you look like King Dickley Kool. I'm like, what? And we used it for the album, the name of the album, just as a joke. We had all these little inside jokes amongst each other, and that was one of them.
What was, like, out of the albums, what was like the song, or like the main song that people always wanted to hear from you guys?
Yesterday on the Forward Look. Everybody liked that song a lot.
What did that sound like? Why do you think that was the hit?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I never really dug it. I mean, I liked it, but I don't know. I guess, you know what? I think it was the catchy chorus that people liked. Yeah, that was it. Everybody wanted to hear everybody. You know what? That was the song that wanted people to hear my music, and going out, played a show in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and kids were singing that song when we played it. It was like, wow, holy shit, I made it. That's it. I'm done. I could retire. I could retire from music. Again, like I said, not real big goals at the time, but that was it. So that was the one song.
How many tours did you guys go on, and how far outside of Jersey did you get?
We did Christ, 5 tours. We did the full U.S. tour in we did the full U.S. tour in '96. We went out in January. Our album was supposed to be out, and that was the whole idea. This is how you knew the end was coming. Our album was supposed to be out, King Dickley Kool, and we were touring the whole country. We were booked all over, and the album never came out. Delay. It sucked. So we were pissed. We were playing all of these shows, and people want to hear new music, and we're playing our old shit, and we're just like, oh, this sucks. But we got to see a lot of places we never, we're never at. But we played all over. The only place that we didn't go, we never went up to Seattle. Never made it to the Northwest. But we did San Francisco, Sacramento, L.A., Arizona, Texas, Louisiana. All the major, Chicago, all that stuff. We were with the Independents out on the West Coast. They helped us out a lot. That was a lot of fun, that tour. 5 tours.
So a buddy of mine, my friend who I was asking about the Wilmington Club, he said either Soapbox or Reggie's.
Reggie's.
Okay.
Reggie's.
All right. That was the one on the 3rd floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gone now.
Reggie's. That's right. Reggie's. Wow. Bringing back memories.
I know. This is awesome. So, I mean, the funny thing about this podcast is that it's me talking about how the late 90s were the thing. And then the 2000s, everything's changing and music starts going in a different direction, and you don't really know as a band where you're fitting in, and you're not really liking where the scene's going. What was that like for you guys? Because you said 95, 96 is when you went on that long tour, and that's like where shit is just flipped, like so hard. So where do you guys feel you fit in at this time period, like when you're back then?
Would we fit in, like who we sound like, or
like,
who we tour
no,
with?
like when you guys are on the road, or you're playing music, and you're all these shows are happening, and the local shows are expanding, and you guys have done the scene up to this point, and now it's expanded. There's more eyes on it. What is your viewpoint as a band at this point? Are you thinking, oh, cool, or you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. It was cool, and it was what the fuck was going on. So, I mean, well, everything changed. And this is just my take. Maybe people have different take on it. Everything changed when Green Day came out with Dookie, because you would play the Pipeline on a Thursday night with 30 people, 20 people. Green Day comes out, and you got this renaissance of quote unquote punk rock, and now people are coming out. It was crazy. It was wild. It was just like weird. We weren't used to it. But there was more attention and more eyes on it. More bands were coming around. More things were happening. So that was the big change. And the other thing, what happened was at that time, we were finding out was, oh, shit, man. We came in, we played the night after Lagwagon left. Or we played the night after No Empathy, where it's gone. Or, like we were like, what's going on? We would play. So, of course, the show we would do would only have, maybe 25, 30 people, where the night before it was 300. Which didn't happen in the beginning. It was a big deal. Like we played with Sam I Am twice at the Pipeline. It was a big deal. Like, whoa, in New Jersey. It's like, oh, this is great. So then when you're going on the road, all of these bands, Sam I Am's out. They were like huge rock stars to us. You're on a major label. Dogpound's not playing with those guys. Dogpound's not playing with Bad Religion. But that was the big thing. Those bands were huge and going all over the place. And then you got to remember, yeah, No Effects was huge, but then all of a sudden, Fat Mike, his label, he's putting out all of these bands, Strung Out, and they're all going on the road, and and then Chicago, all the bands on the road going, the Bullweevils and Cletus and No Empathy, all those bands, Oblivion, Smoking Popes, they're all over the place. So now, when we started and it was us playing with Jawbox, now it's like everywhere. So that was the big shift, the huge shift that we saw. Was, wow, there's a lot of bands doing what we do, and they're all getting attention, and we're not. You mentioned another band we played with, and you did a podcast with them, Rhythm Collision.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys are great dudes, man. We played with them in St. Louis. Harlan was our contact, and when we played LA, he came out. Yeah, those guys were great too. So, like I said, there's Rhythm Collision. The Doctor Strange bands are all out on the road. It was big, like I said, a real big change in the when it happened. And I know it got bigger. By the time we got out, it got much bigger. But like I said, we were just done.
What wasn't working out for you guys, do you think? That because you break up in 97 right as things like really blow up and like Warped Tour starts kicking in, and you know there's the levels, there's different levels of bands in the scene where you got the NoFXs that are playing huge shows, you have the local bands and stuff. And you guys have been doing this for so long. Like what do you think the thing was missing for you guys to have continued to that point and to like get more eyes on you?
I think the big problem was what happened was there was like a little bit of a divide in the band. That's what kind of happened. I wanted to be a little more slicker, and half the band wanted to be a little more, harder. And there was this conflict, but it was great because we were making some great music, and the stuff, I'll tell you what, the stuff we never got to record was a lot of fun. But that's what happened. We just had a difference of opinions, and I broke the band up. I was just like, I'm done. A little bit of with the record label, and not with me, with some members in the band, and just a lot of bullshit. And you know what? Looking back at it now, it was all corny crap, but back then it was like huge, and it was just, I don't know. You know what? I had enough. I was just getting just annoyed with it. It's a lot of work to have your band, to book, especially then, to book your band, to write your songs, to rehearse. We rehearsed all the time. Whenever we could, we rehearsed. We loved it. It was a lot of work, and we weren't, in my opinion, there was no payoff. It's just like, what do we do? Okay, we're going to book another tour, play in front of 20-something people. Like, I was just soured on the whole thing. I was like, you know what? I said to Larry, I said, you know what? I'm just done with this. We played a couple shows in Manhattan. That really just soured me. I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this at all. And I did.
What was the thing that soured you about those shows?
It soured me. There was an air of, early on, everybody was open arms. There was such an air of arrogance that was going on with the promoters, some bands. And where it was, like I said to you before, like one big happy family, everybody helped each other, it changed. It became competition. It became, I'm better than you. It became Yankees versus Red Sox shit. Man, I'm playing punk rock, so I'm not part of that stuff. And it became everything I hated. And I didn't like, and again, I know the guys didn't want to break the band up. They wanted to keep going. And I've had many long conversations with Brian and Larry about it, and Alan, and I had enough. I just didn't like it anymore. I was so soured by that because I put so much of myself into the band, into the scene, helping bands out. Bands would come to town. We would cook for them, offered friends offered their floors. Cause you go on the road, you're not staying in hotels, you're staying on somebody's floors. We did that. We did all of that stuff. And then it just saw the big turn. It was terrible. There was so much wonderful stuff that happened and so many wonderful people I met. And then the bad just overtook it, man, for us, and for me. And I just didn't care for it, man. And it was just, I always looked at it as, how come I could cook a bunch of, couple pounds of pasta and stuff for CJ Ramon's band who came into town and have a conversation with this guy. And he was so cool. And just was like, yeah, one of the guys. And then, the next day you're dealing with a promoter who's just a complete ass. And I was just like, wait a second, this just isn't adding up. And I just felt like I was wasting my time, spinning my wheels. And I didn't want to do it anymore. It just, like I said, it became everything I hated about hard rock, cock rock and all that stuff. That's what punk was becoming to me. And I was just, and to me, I don't think there's punk anymore. I mean, you got to really, really scratch the surface to find some, punk rock bands with those ethics and stuff. And I know people evolve. I know the world evolves, technology evolves. I get it. I understand it. It's just different, man. Just totally different.
When you guys broke up, did you stay involved? Did you go to shows? Did you take a break? Like, what happened to you personally?
So what I did was stopped with the band, and I was booking some shows. I booked, Ken, the Bull Weevils broke up at that time too. We broke up, I think, at the same time. And Ken Weevil had a band called the Federales. They were coming into town. Never got to book them, but almost did. Booked them at we booked them at an old fur store, Antonivich's Fur. It was empty, and we booked a show there.
Who did you book?
IDK. You ever hear of those guys? They're a Jersey band too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Tom and Red, great friends of ours. And at the time, I still talk to to Tom, Red through Facebook. Had all of our friends' bands put them on, and we played. It was a great show. It was fantastic. And I put my, threw my hat in the ring with that. I wanted to do some stuff at like the Pipeline and Studio One at the time, and get some of these other bands, these lower, not the No Effects or the Bad Religions, but the Rhythm Collisions and those type of bands. Like, let's get those guys out here, because everybody loved them. Tried going into Studio One, and again, I got soured, but with the bullshit, and it was about money, and I'm like, what? And that's all I needed to hear. And once they were talking about money and all this shit, I was like, goodbye, done. And I stopped booking. I started writing my music acoustically. I played, and that was it. That's all I did.
So where did you play when you were doing acoustic stuff? Like, where would you play Dogpound songs?
No. So funny story. We break up. Brian, the guitar player, starts a band called Bomb Paris, and they played around, and they played in the late 90s a lot, and they did their thing. And I wind up just writing acoustic songs. Bomb Paris took a break, and Brian and I did this acoustic thing called Augustine all the time.
Okay.
Back in 99, 2000. Acoustic duo. A lot of fun. We did not do Dogpound songs. We made it a point not to. We wrote new tunes, and we had a ball doing it. I got married and had kids. He got Bomb Paris back together, and he did that. And then I didn't pick up the guitar and start the music thing probably until 06 again. And I was in a band called Whatever, power pop stuff, like Cheap Trick rock and roll, catchy rock and roll. And now I'm doing the same thing. I go under the name Jefferson. Played a lot of acoustic stuff the last 6 years prior to COVID, and started going electric just before COVID. And now we're a trio again with a drums, bass, and guitar. I'm a singer and guitar, and we're playing power pop tunes and having fun doing it.
Are you still in Jersey?
Still in Jersey. Getting ready to go into Chris Badami's studio to lay down put out a new record.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So we were going to go. We're going in May. We're going to start doing that. So that should be fun, and I'll put that stuff up real soon. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, whether I get 2 songs, 4 songs, or 14. Whatever happens, and that's what we're going to do.
It's kind of full circle almost in a way for me in a very small scale because, like I said, you guys being one of the first things I buy at a local show is your label, and then you guys are doing all this stuff and really opened that door for us. And then Badami, we met him when he was our first demo tape. This was before he was when he was in Gate.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so we found him through a friend of ours in high school, and then other bands started going to him. So then he just became Portrait Studios, which was huge.
Portrait, yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you guys are going to go in there and record with them. That's so
funny.
wild.
I went in the Portrait before COVID and laid down some stuff, and nothing. Of course, COVID and nothing came of it. I never. We changed our drummer at the time, and our guitar player. I had another guitar player. He bowed out. So instead of pursuing those initial tracks, I figured let me just start over. That's where I'm at. But yeah, Badami's a great guy. His studio's fantastic.
Yeah, Chris is one of the best people in the world. Like, really is.
Fantastic drummer too. Did you know that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was because he was drumming for Gate back then. He was the first interview on this podcast too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he started the whole thing off. He was the first one. All right. So before I ask the last 2 questions, is a story. It doesn't have to be crazy. It could be funny. It doesn't have to be like bad, but whatever you want to tell. Is there a story you've always wanted to tell in an interview that you never got a chance to, and now you can?
Sure. I do have one.
All right, here
we go. we were the last night of our West Coast tour with the Independents. We're playing Sacramento, California. It was a Sunday, and we get in there early, and Evil Presley, Chris, the singer from the Independents, is like, "Come on, Jeff, let's have a drink." We got to the club early. I mean, 8 o'clock showtime. We got there at 2. So we figured, all right, we'll watch some football, have a few beers. It'll be a great way to, end the tour with these guys. We had a bunch of shows booked after, but it was the end of that leg with those guys. In the middle of this deep conversation Chris and I are having, the owner of the club comes in screaming bloody murder at my guitar player, Brian, who was in the restroom, going to the bathroom, saying that he was doing heroin and screaming. Now, when I'm telling you screaming, like, you're doing heroin in my club, get the fuck out. We're like, what? Now, listen, I know damn well Brian ain't doing friggin' heroin. We're all friends. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. Brian, what are you doing? Go to the fucking bathroom. Yeah, guy lost his shit. Threw us out. These skinheads come in there. They start getting pissed. They want to start a fight with the guy who's canceling the show because apparently we were playing with a skinhead band. Us, the Independents, some skinhead band. I had no idea who they were. We get in our van. The Independents get in our van. We got to get the hell out of here. Everybody was getting worried that the cops were coming. A bunch of people jump in our van. This guy's like, I swear to God, the guy's like, dude, my band's got a rehearsal studio. Why don't we just go get a keg and play at the rehearsal studio tonight? I'm like, we're in. Let's see what the Independents want to do. Well, we wind up playing at their rehearsal studio somewhere in Sacramento. It was like a garage. Opened it up, keg of beer, ton of people. It was fantastic. One of the best shows ever. And the conversations we had with all of these like-minded folks, it was great. And that was one of the more crazy things that ever happened. Yeah. I have one other crazy one too.
Before you tell that one, so the band that had the garage, this practice space, that was the Skinhead band?
Yeah.
And they were really nice.
They were awesome. I don't think they were. I think they attracted skinheads for some reason. They didn't play. So this is how cool these guys were. They were like, listen, there's a curfew here. You guys play. You guys are on the road. And they passed the hat around for us. You guys need the money to get to your next destination. And all our CDs, our swag, our shirts and loved them. And they were great dudes. I mean, again, if Facebook was around, I'm sure we'd be Facebook friends with them, but I have no idea who they were, but great dudes, but all for the cause and for the scene. I mean, we were talking about, Johnny Thunders and in New York, they were intrigued that we were from New Jersey and New York and, asking all these questions about the New York Dolls and Thunders. And it was just cool. The Ramones, it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, that worked out great.
Wait, why did the guy think your dude was doing heroin?
Honestly, in hindsight, I think the guy was tweaking. I think he was on fucking smack, and I think he snapped. And I have no idea. This guy cleared out his whole bar. I mean, you got to remember, this is 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon. People watching football, eating wings and shit. Okay. Later on, it turns into a club. They move the tables and there's a stage, and everybody cleared out. Like families cleared out. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
This guy was screaming like a banshee. And I was scared. I was like, I don't need to get arrested in Sacramento, man.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
What's you wanted to tell another one. What was the other story?
We go to Green Bay, Appleton, Wisconsin. Okay. Fantastic scene up there. Some of the best people ever. So we play up there. We have a good turnout, good following. I guess there was a radio station up there, college, playing our records, so people knew us. So we played a show, and it was freezing. These guys owned a skate shop. Oh, man, forgive me. I forget their names, but they booked the shows in Appleton. They hooked us up with a place to stay. And they said, listen, it's a warm house, but these guys are a little, shall we say, punk rock. I'm like, yeah, we don't care. So being on the road, I'm sure we had, our roadies and us, we had like a catchphrase, like if we're not staying here or we're uncomfortable, we'll just eke it out in the van. And I forget, maybe the catchphrase was Exxon or something. We go into this guy's apartment up the 3rd floor, walk up. We go into this guy's apartment. They're all over. I'm talking shit. Animal feces. Great. The guy was a crazy drinker. It was just nuts. Animals all over the place, birds, cats. It was crazy. The stink, I'm telling you, just thinking about it, I could hurl. That's how bad it was.
Oh, God.
So, of course, we sit down on his couch, and Brian looks at me. I get the look. We grew up with these guys. He's like, we passed an Exxon, didn't we? I go, yeah, we need food, right? Yeah. Well, we bail out. We freeze our tails off, and we don't come back. Well, wait, hold on now. Wait. 8 months later.
Oh, no.
We go back to Appleton, Wisconsin. We're playing with Sloppy Seconds. Place is packed. This fucking guy comes out. He wants to kick our ass. I swear to God, he wanted to fight the whole band and the roadie. I'm gonna fuck you up. And the funny thing was, our drummer Alan's like, Jeff, I'm like, yeah, the dude, like the house we left, he wants to kill us. He's trying to kill me. I'm like, come on, you're kidding, right? No, look. And he was coming after us. He was drunk as a skunk. Obviously he didn't hurt us or anything like that. And a friend of a friend calmed him down and everything was fine. We shook hands and he apologized. It was fine. But it was crazy. You know, we're dicks too. The guy's nice enough to give us his place to sleep. And, we just couldn't.
That's gross, though. No, fuck that shit.
It was so fucking gross, and we couldn't do it. So yeah, that was some crazy stuff right there. Yeah.
Oh God, that's so nasty. Did just real quick, did he ask why you didn't stay, and you guys just made up some thing, or like?
No. We didn't even go into that because obviously. And then hey, one more great one.
Yeah.
Norfolk, Virginia. We played this place, Tim Avail. I don't know. I forget his name. The guy, he's
Tim Barry.
Tim Barry, that's it. Tim Avail at the time books us in this place. Tim's a great guy. Was a great guy. I don't know him anymore. And
I think he's still fantastic from what I hear.
That's what I hear. We played his place. It's packed with people. Of course, they put us as the last act. Everybody walks out. We need a place to stay. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So this kid's like, dude, you want to stay at my place? I'm like, yeah, sure. We go back to the suburbs in Norfolk. We go into this house. The complete opposite. This place is beautiful. We're in his room. We're listening to music, and we entered his room and we wondered why there was 3 like padlocks on his door. We're like, oh, this must be something wrong with the guy. Who knows? So he's like, yeah, you guys could just sleep in the living room. So we're sleeping bags. We're sleeping in the living room, and it's about 6:30 in the morning. It's Thanksgiving morning, and you hear, I guess, the mom and dad waking up. And, she's starting to prepare her turkey or whatever. She walks into the living room. She's like, what the hell is this? Who are these people? She gets her husband. Who are these men in our living room? She starts freaking out. She wakes up her son. Who are these people? They needed a place to stay. They can't stay here. Fuck you, Mom. Fuck you, Dad. They start motherfucking each other. Oh. We run out in our pajamas. Out of a dead sleep, we run out in our pajamas and we went to the nearest Denny's and celebrated Thanksgiving that morning like that. But I thought that kid was going to, it was a nice gesture. We had no idea, but the parents fucking lost their minds, man. And we weren't doing anything wrong. We were just sleeping on the floor. So those are my 3 little crazy tour stories that I got for you.
That's awesome, man. Well, cool, dude. Well, I'm going to wrap this up with 2 questions. Dude. Yeah, dude. Thanks for being on this. One, what would you like to plug? It could be about you. It could be about a friend. It could be about both.
You can find me up on Bandcamp, Jefferson. I got an album called Renovo, Specchio, a couple albums up there. Some new stuff's going to be up there real soon. I'm going to hopefully get the Dogpound page up and off, and I'll send all that stuff to you so people could at least download the stuff and listen to it. And that's pretty much it, man, as far as plugging for myself.
Now, actually, I'm on Bandcamp. How do I find you again?
Under Jefferson, and you go Jefferson Renovo is the name of the album. There's a ton of Jeffersons but it's Renovo, Rinnovo.
Oh,
it's got a ship on the cover.
Nnovo. OVO. Okay. This is kind of a bitch to find. Oh, see, art.
Yeah, labels. It is. It's on Spotify too, and Apple iTunes and all that stuff. That stuff's there.
Okay, cool. All right, because I want to be able to link to this in the show notes.
Cool.
All right. Oh, Renovo. Oh, it's just Renovo, and then Jefferson. Okay, cool. I see the ship. Yep, see it on Spotify really quick. Cool, man. All right. So last question: what scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
I've had this conversation with Brian, the guitar player. Ethics, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. When the old school touring, you have the idea. Well, let's play a show in Birmingham, Alabama. Okay, You get the press package together, you send it out, you follow it up, phone call, confirm the thing, you go. So it's kind of like project management from start to finish. And it's funny, that's kind of what I do now as my job, as my career. I'm the director of operations for a trade show company, and it's what I do. I do a project from start to finish, labor wise, and so that's the ethic. That's not the ethic. That's the job. Ethic. You know what? The ethic is do what I want. Always walk to my own beat, no matter what. I've always did that. You get, what's that? You get to the fork in the road, you go left, you go right. I walk right to freak through it my way, and that's it. And that's the ethic I had with Dogpound from day one and punk rock. And that's how it is now for me. I just got to do it my way, and that's it. That's the ethic that I took out from what I'm doing now. Being an individual, not following the trends and fads. That's what it's about. None of that. Go against it.